dreams. Colors come alive, coming and changing, no two are alike. Inspired to learn about the world outside. Here I go, on a journey wild and wide. Microscope zoom in a whole new sight. Madagascar beckons, it's a magical flight. Exploring the wonders with eyes open wide. I'm on a quest with knowledge as my guide. Woodworking hands shaping dreams anew, creating beauty from the depths of truth. Building bridges, connecting old and new. Crafting tales that will touch hearts through.
Well, hello world. I am here with Tyler France. Hello, Tyler.
Hey, Bill. A pleasure to be here. Welcome, everybody.
All right. We've got quite the crowd in the chat right now. Hello, everybody. Thank you very much for joining us here. And obviously, we're doing something a little bit different because I'm up here with somebody else. And so this is the way it's going to go, everybody. Tyler has had an experience where he has worked through getting parasites out of his collection. And so I wanted to bring him on and have him share that experience. So as far as everybody in the chat, this is going to go just like normal. I'm going to ask him a couple of questions and we're just going to get him talking. We've got a slideshow to show you just a little bit. And it's throw in any questions you have as we go along. Tyler, you've been here long enough. You know how this goes. We just talk and then we jump to chat and then talk again and go back and forth because it's just a dynamic situation here.
Sounds good.
So, okay, Tyler, I do have your slideshow up. Just let me know if you want to access those slides and I will throw them up here.
Okay, sounds good, Bill.
And so I'm just going to start you off. Give us an idea. Start off. Let us know what you are doing, and bring us up to the point where you got that fateful day where you looked under the microscope.
So my name is Tyler France. I've been part of the reptile community for as long as I could remember. I also am teaching 8th grade biology, and so I do have some sort of affinity tied to parasites. I started the Chameleon Collective about a year ago with my wife, so we are both co-founders of this, Zoe. And so we picked up Panther Chameleons from iPardalis from John. So we have a beautiful male and female chameleon. And actually on the slides, we have a picture of those two.
Well,
The sire and dam will be up here. There they are.
you have that.
Yeah, so if we have any Black Sabbath fans in the building, we have Ozzy and Sharon here. And you probably have a good guess as to what their kids are going to be named. And they're beautiful. And so I first got Ozzy in May. Sharon was new to us end of August. So this was my first time dealing with chameleons. I wanted to be able to pick up Ozzy and have him for a few months, go through the process of what it's like owning a chameleon. I've had many different types of exotic animals. I've taken care of chameleons, but I've never personally owned one myself. So in the first month or so of having Ozzy, I took the parasite course, and I was really excited to get my microscope and put a fecal slide underneath the objective lens and see what I got. And lo and behold, there is some Isospora. So actually there's one slide on the slideshow, 6/22, I believe. So that's June.
There we go.
June, yep. And so these were the first couple of micrographs or pictures I took using the microscope, and you can clearly see the Isospora cells on both of those images. And so that kicked off the wonderful last 2.5 months of toltrazerol and Isospora.
So, yeah. And what was really cool is that we, for those who don't know, the course he's talking about is the Hunting Microscopic Chameleon Parasites course. It's a digital course offered by the Chameleon Academy. And if you take that course, it is asynchronous. You can take it at your own pace whenever you want to, but it's community powered, which means that you can ask questions in the lessons and I'll answer. And also we have a forum where the students going through it, the alumni and me, we're all there in the forum talking about what we're doing. And so Tyler was going through the course and he posts this and was saying, yeah, okay, we got an issue. And so we were able to follow him. He was doing regular updates. It was awesome watching this, which is why I've got him on here. And we could just watch through the entire process. So let's go back to when you detected, wait a minute, this is coccidia. I got to do something about it. Well, first of all, what went through your mind?
So the first thing was to reach out to a few of my mentors and people within the community, and also reach out to a vet to establish if there was going to need to be a checkup involved. Where I'm located, I'm in Baltimore. So the closest exotic animal vet to me is Stahl, which is about a couple hours away. There are a couple closer, but Stahl has one of the best reputations around this area. So it's going to be quite a drive. I was able to run the fecal smears myself, but the vets at Stahl, of course, they wanted to see the chameleon prior to going through the whole checkup. So I had a couple decisions to make. So I took this course. I understood that there was a couple different medications that I could choose from. And so Panazerol was the first medication that I actually tried to get, but that's only available through the veterinarian. So toltrazerol was the second choice, and that's the medication that I used for the 3 doses that you see here.
Okay. And just background for everybody, both toltrazerol, Panazerol is actually a metabolite of toltrazerol. And so it's like given the same medicine, and a metabolite means when you give toltrazerol, it goes into the intestines and it gets into the blood system, and the first stop that anything goes through the liver. And in the liver, it changes toltrazerol into Panazerol. And so giving the two is equivalent. And the only difference between the two is availability and cost and such, but it's the same inside the chameleon. So that was fine. Now, what are the time differences between these 3 dosages?
So here we start at 6/22, and you can actually see the density of Isospora. It does increase as we go from dose 1 to dose 2. The first dose here, so the fecals, when I was gathering the fecals, I was just coming off of our end of the school year and going into summer camp. So I was busy throughout the day. So coming home, getting the fecals, I was trying to get them as fresh as possible. There were some times where I found the fecal, but it was too dry to get a good smear. So if there were multiple days in between like 6:29 to 7:10, that's a pretty long time. There's obviously a couple of fecals in there. I just didn't get to them quick enough.
Okay.
And so you'll see that there are a few days that are spread apart, and then there are some closer together. As in dose 3, I was home or I was home a lot. So I was actually able to check in every day, go through the entire cage. And so that's when you can kind of see it's like 8:23, 8:26, and then 9:07. So,
Okay. Eliza Ann's got a question. Tyler, how did your cam do taking the medication?
so I have actually the tiltrazole right here. And when I was administering it to Ozzy, I mean, unfortunately, fortunately, when I use the temp gun and he sees this yellow, his mouth, he fires up and he puts his mouth open. So it's very easy to administer. So like the administering was easy, but what I was observing was there was a slight change. I don't know if it was from the medication. Prior to taking toltrazole, he was eating dubia readily. Like anytime I'd be putting them into the feed or run cup, he would snag them. But over dose 2 to 3, he actually started or he stopped eating dubia completely and stopped eating hornworm. So I did notice a change in his diet, and that has stayed till this point now. So he no longer eats dubia really. I have to gut load my crickets, make sure I have silkworms. And if I do find a hornworm small enough and I dust it completely, he thinks it's a silkworm and he'll eat it. So diet was one thing. And then behavior, there was throughout dose 2 and into dose 3, I noticed that he was starting to climb the top of the screen. And he has not done that since taking toltrazole and being done with the dosages, and he wasn't doing that prior. So I didn't know if maybe like hanging upside down was, maybe his stomach was upset. I don't know if that even had anything to do with toltrazole, but there were some things I did observe.
Yeah, I noticed a chameleon that may have reacted negatively to metronidazole, but yeah, every chameleon seems to be different as to how they're going to react to this kind of stuff. So, all right. So this is, we have, let's see, our last fecal was done September 7th.
Yep.
Here. So have you been taking a look since then?
Yeah. So I took one more fecal since then. I have not found anything. And I also have taken a fecal from the female chameleon as well, and I have not found anything. So cross our fingers that there are no more oocysts in that cage, and that we have fully gotten them out. But I'll be checking weekly. So we'll keep you updated.
All right. So we know the coccidia oocysts, they produce lots of oocysts, and those oocysts get all over the place and they don't like to die. So what did you do to lessen the probability that those oocysts would get into your chameleon's mouth?
So I actually went for, I don't know, two-prong approach outside of the medication. I used this hand steam cleaner. I think for one of the podcasts, I heard that the Isospora oocysts die over 60 degrees Celsius. So this does get hot enough over that 60 degrees Celsius point. So what I would do is actually, Bill, if you can flip to the slideshow with the F10 and the hand steam cleaner. Yeah. So anytime that I was finding a spot of fecal matter, I would use the F10 disinfectant. You do have to dilute this, so it's like 10 milliliters for every liter that you use. F10, this was something that was recommended to me by Marcia Ibsen. Fantastic. So thank you, Marcia. And then what I would do is after the third fecal and getting ready for the next dose, I would take out everything from that enclosure and wipe down it all with this diluted F10. With the hand steamer, I would do a full enclosure clean after every fecal sample, but I wouldn't take everything out. So obviously after that third fecal smear that I would take everything out. I would disinfect it with the F10, hand steamer, and then put it back in. The sticks, however, I changed up my sticks. So anytime that I was taking things out of the cage, I was always using different types of sticks. So I bake them and use new ones.
Okay, Matthew King is asking, what microscope do you use, and are they very expensive?
So I'm fortunate enough to be working at a school in a biology lab, so I have access to a lot of microscopes. The one that I use, if you flip over, Bill, yeah. So this is a Fisher Scientific compound microscope. This one has a 3 objective lenses on it. It's heavy. It's a really good piece of equipment. This is an older model. They hold up really well in the 8th grade biology lab. So at home, if you're only using this a couple times a month, it's going to last you for a long time. I can't say forever, but a long time. There is a fixed stage on this. It doesn't have the mechanical stage. So if you are buying a microscope, I would recommend getting a mechanical stage. The fixed stage only allows you to go up and down, but the mechanical allows you to go up and down and left and right. So I would recommend that. This microscope was a little over $300. If you were to go to the next step, which would be a 4 turret or 4 objective lenses, so you'd have 40, 100, 400, and 1,000, that microscope actually jumped up to $900. So the equipment that I'm using is fairly pricey. I don't know if I would be using this if I didn't have access to it. There might be a different type of microscope that I'm using. But that's the one I use.
Yeah, you can find some pretty good deals on Amazon, and even better deals when you go into like classified sections of used microscopes. I was able to find a $3,500 microscope for $500, and so that's now my favorite. It's the Motique BA310. For anybody here who is a microscope nerd. So,
what are your objective lenses go up to?
My objectives, it just 100, up to 100, but I only use up to 40 because for my viewer, I use my iPhone, which has a 15 times magnification. It's digital, so it's not optical, but it is so convenient for me to be able to go from I can go from 100 to 1500 without moving the objectives. And if I really want to get a good picture, then I switch to the 40 times objective. And
yeah, that's nice. This is kind of like playing an instrument a little bit. You got your fine adjustment knob, your chords are kind of going back and forth between it.
So, all right. Jarek is asking, is checking fecal done as a precaution? My veiled acts healthy, but I want to make sure I'm doing what I should be. I can answer that one. Jarek, we doing a proactive fecal check is recommended. I recommend that because when there are so many different ways that a parasite can make its way into our collection, and it's not, even if you don't bring any chameleons in, if you interact with anybody who has been to a reptile expo or you've been to a reptile expo, there's parasites all over that place. And there's just so many ways that parasites can get in. That's what they specialize in. I mean, if they can navigate and figure out how to get into a chameleon in the forest of Madagascar, within our reptile community, they can move around. And so the best thing to do is to get a regular fecal check done. And the reason is because when they are healthy, that is when you want to get the parasites down. And really, your veil can look and act healthy and have parasites at the same time because you have good husbandry. The thing that kills the most parasites is the chameleon's immune system. And so if you're giving your chameleon good husbandry, then you are keeping that immune system healthy, and that immune system is holding down the parasite load to the balance that nature intended. And so your chameleon could be going around living life just fine with a parasite load, and it's not a health problem. The thing is, if anything happens in your veiled chameleon's life, they get a cold, they have a bad day, or they get stressed for whatever reason, that's when the immune system goes down and isn't able to keep control of the parasites. And that's when things start spiraling out of control if you don't already have excellent hygienic practices in place. Of course, you only have one chameleon. It's been 5 years, so you just kind of, oh, okay, I'll pick up this poop, throw it away, no problem. And so, best case, check it on an annual basis if you don't have a microscope. Those of us in the course, like in our that I talked about, we check every poop, and we're having a blast sharing what we find, and we find surprises. We find things we didn't expect. Like I don't think Jarek expected that he was going to find some Isospora.
Yeah, no, my Panther Chameleon had showed no signs. And I think when I was at the reptile show, Bill, actually someone asked a similar question. It was like, why treat if in nature that type of parasite doesn't necessarily kill the host? But I think in like the podcast that you covered up coccidia, these Panther chameleons are in a confined space.
Yeah.
And so the oocysts can cover all of these different like surfaces. And if you don't keep those feeders to the feeder run cup, that multiplication happens quickly. I think what you say, 8,000 sporozoites, or was it gametes?
Well, yeah, I'll explain see, and we start off, that's a valid question that people say, well, if parasites are normal, why do we treat? The reason is because the amount of parasitic eggs, ova, oocysts that the chameleon is ingesting out in the wild is very small, because like coccidia, it produces like mad inside the body, but it's got to do that because the immune system is just wiping them out whenever they find it. And when they go out in the poop, they go down to the forest floor in Madagascar. What are the chances that the right insect is going to go by that poop before it just dissipates in the rain, and then that right insect is going to get into the mouth of a chameleon instead of getting eaten by a bird, which is a complete waste of the oocysts? So they're in the wild, there's so much pressure on these oocysts just surviving that the coccidia is lucky to get one or two into the right chameleon. When we bring into captivity, we take that production that is meant to survive in the forests of Madagascar and we put it into 2 by 2 by 4 foot tall. So we have that incredible oocyst production in that small space, coupled with only the perfect feeders, coupled with the definitive host, and we put it all into this one small area. And so the odds are forever in the parasite's favor.
Yep.
I mean, not really. The parasite doesn't want this. If the chameleon dies, the parasite dies too. They don't want this. They want the balance. So this is not them trying to win. This is, they're just an organism that reproduces at a horribly insane rate just to survive. So that's the reason. If anybody asks, why do we treat? That's the reason. Is because we have to make up for the captivity that we have put onto this system. So we've knocked it out of balance. We got to put it back into balance. So, all right, let's see if anybody else has a comment here. And so, Jarek, I would recommend doing a regular fecal. And of course, I'd recommend getting a microscope and having fun checking every one. But there comes a time where once you've cleaned out if you only have one chameleon, it gets kind of boring once you clean out all the parasites. So, I mean, we have poor Eliza Ann. her poor chameleons are all clean, and so she doesn't get to post the interesting stuff that we do. And for all those know, I'm acclimating a group of wild-caught chameleons, so I've got all sorts of fun stuff to share.
Yeah, once you get your microscope, you kind of open up all those doors. You won't believe how many Friday nights you'll be in the house just grabbing interesting things outside and looking at underneath the microscope, listening to some good music. So you get caught up quick.
Oh, let's see. Matthew King is asking, when a chameleon gets a parasite, how long can they live after getting the parasite? You want to take that one, Tyler?
It's dependent upon the environment. I think for us in these small enclosures, I can't say for sure with Isospora, but I do know that if you were to leave that long term, it wouldn't affect the liver. Would be the other form of coccidia, Bill. Is it the kidneys that this isospora would be affecting?
The asospora is in the intestines. It's
Okay.
the choliomyria that is in the liver and gallbladder.
So over time, the epidermal cells within the intestinal lining are going to become damaged. And if you have this coccidia that's going through the merogeny stage, right, Bill? Merogeny? Is that it?
Yeah, that's it.
All right,
That's the asexual reproduction.
so as this parasite's traveling through the intestine, and they're finding these epidermal cells that are part of the villi that capture, like these big sponges that capture all of the nutrients. And so if the parasite is damaging these cells and not allowing these cells to take in nutrients, and the parasite itself is taking in nutrients, the chameleon's body isn't getting that energy that it needs. And so eventually that will have long-term catastrophic effects.
Yeah, Matthew, it really is. Matthew, the problem is not the population of the parasite inside the chameleon at the time. It's not the snapshot that's the problem. The problem is when you have a direct life cycle parasite, those parasites inside the chameleon's body keep producing this infectious material. And if you don't have the husbandry to keep that in check, then the chameleon keeps getting this super dose of eggs. Remember how we talked in Madagascar, they only get lucky to get 2 oocysts? Well, in captivity, they could get 100 oocysts or more. And that is way out of balance. The immune system is not ready to deal with 100 oocysts. And as Tyler mentioned, there's this stage called merogeny, which is asexual reproduction. And each oocyst produces 8 sporozoites. We'll get into when people start talking coccidia, it's like a completely different language. But and these 8 sporozoites go into these cells in the intestines, and they each produce a whole lot of, and they do asexual reproduction. They clone themselves.
Yeah.
And then all of those clones go off into the cells to clone themselves again. And then so we get this multiplication of all of these asexual forms. And the reason why it's doing this, of course, is to evade the immune system. And so it produces enough oocysts at the end of this life cycle, there's another stage to it, that they can coat the forest floor and they survive. So there's a whole lot of production that we're dealing with, and the chameleon dies in captivity as opposed to in the wild because all of this entire production is not being dissipated over in the entire forest floor. It's being re-ingested into the chameleon. And so it's that downward spiral that really causes death in captivity.
Yeah, what I think John says, like he counts as like almost like HP, like a point off of health here, point off of health here. And over time, points like they subtract and they take away.
So okay, let me see. Check around. I got to check the chat and make sure I don't miss questions. This is the fun, Tyler. I get to do this all the time. Music and Microscope, the new Friday night for us camp. I ought to do that. Everybody get your microscopes.
It's pretty fun. Not gonna lie, it's pretty fun.
Oh my goodness, it is. Oh, and you know what's great? Tyler, have you ever grabbed a poop after it's been in the plant pot?
No, I have not.
You need to do that.
Okay.
And realize what you're seeing is not what came from the chameleon. It's all the nematodes that come from the pot. But oh my goodness, the first time you take a look at a poop that you got out of your plant, your soil, it will freak you out, because there is a party going on there, because every organism in that soil is going for the bacterial feast up there.
Fertilizer.
It's incredible. You got to do it. You find paramecium, you find nematodes galore. It's like it's awesome.
I will. I'll have to bring one in.
So okay, Eliza Ann is asking, Tyler, I'd love to hear the emotions that came up for you when you went through this. I was highly stressed. Eliza Ann noticed that she had Entamoeba invadens, which is a very rough parasite. Just curious what the experience was like for you since you started with this knowledge. And I think the context is when she started, there wasn't this information. And so it was just, you have this parasite that could kill your chameleon. What?
Yeah.
But you started with the base of education.
I did. I had the base of education. I had some strong mentors and a community that was there to help me. So there were times where I felt like I was failing as a keeper, a breeder. And I actually, Bill, if you could flip back to the string of micrographs, the fecal, it was dose number 2, fecal 2. I think I posted in the academy. I was like, I don't know what to do. I feel like I'm losing this battle. And I reached out to a couple of my mentors, and they said, you got to give yourself some grace. Know that you are doing everything that you can, and have patience, and allow the medication to work. And so there were many times where I was stressed, and what helped me through that was just kind of reaching out to Bill, to John, to people like yourself. I think you helped me with you told me to put like a covering over the cage to help not stress out the chameleon. So thank you, Marsha, with the F10. So, I didn't feel alone, even though there were some times of high stress. And so I do feel very fortunate to have the academy and community.
Let's see. Matthew is asking, so the cure works very quickly, or even after medicine, is there a possibility you will lose your chameleon? Yeah, Matthew, the medicine only knocks down the forms that are inside your chameleon. You still have all that material that's in the cage if you haven't cleaned it up. And so there is always a chance of reinfection after the medication. And that's why we have such a strong focus on husbandry. In fact, the video that I'm releasing on Thursday is going to be about a beginner's guide to fighting reptile parasites. And during that entire video, I never talk about, oh, this is a pinworm and this is a hookworm. I never identify things. It's all about husbandry. You don't have to know anything about all of these parasites, the life cycles, to have an effective parasite prevention strategy and protocol. Now, of course, it helps. I encourage everybody to learn everything. The more you know, the better you are at it. But you don't need to know it to start with a very powerful anti-parasitic protocol. And so, but it's necessary, because you can't just medicate and then leave, because they'll just come back. So, and also one thing about what Tyler is saying, he medicates and then he gets a poop and still there's some oocysts. One thing about the education that helps is to know what exactly does the medication do. And for those of you who are treating for coccidia, know that the medications affect the forms that are creating the oocysts. But those oocysts sit in the large, they sit as the poop is gathering. So you could do an effective treatment and wipe out, say, let's be optimistic, and wipe out all of the producing forms. In the next poop, you'd still get the oocysts. And so you don't, as Tyler says, give yourself time. Give it all time to work itself out. It is a process.
Yeah. Patience and grace. Patience and grace.
Patience and grace.
Yes.
I need to put that somewhere in my course. Just one page. Patience and grace.
Patience and grace. Yes.
Oh, let's see. Remind us, does the Isospora tend to hide in the chameleon's body? Is this a parasite you'll have to monitor the rest of his life? Or when you wipe it out, you don't have to worry about it anymore? Oh, all right. So what Eliza Ann is asking is, does coccidia shelter in place? They're, generally speaking, I'll just say this. Generally speaking, coccidia, the oocyst, comes into the chameleon's body and it transforms. It has a transformative life cycle. So it comes into the body and it does a whole lot of asexual reproduction. So it clones itself to 10,000. So one oocyst can give you 10,000. In the coccidia that affects cattle, it's like 200,000 per oocyst. 200,000 of these forms, and we don't know with chameleons how much they reproduce asexually. And then at some point they say, okay, we're done asexual reproduction. We are now going to do sexual reproduction. So half of those clones go and become females. Half of those clones become males. And okay, very, very rough explanation here. Okay. I don't need any coccidia nerds saying you're not being accurate. No, okay, I'm being very general. And so they all get together. The male and the female form, they come together, they fertilize, they become an oocyst, and then they go out of the system. What's important is to understand is in this life cycle, there's nothing that stays back. Not like in nematodes, like the worms, they will get into the intestines and they will mate for life, and they will just happily over the years produce ova after eggs. And so there's something that persists. Now, the question is, does coccidia at any point just go into a hibernation and wait to come out some other time? There is a coccidia. It's very tough for us to know the answer to that question. It's very tough for us to observe coccidia and what it's doing. There is one study that talked about something like that. But generally speaking, I'm going to say that is not the standard to their life cycle. It doesn't mean it won't happen. It doesn't mean it doesn't happen and we just don't know about it. So there's always the possibility that it could come back and surprise you. And that's just the nature of this whole parasite game that we've got to do, which is why it's healthy for us to not look at parasites as something that we solve. It's something that we manage over the life of our chameleon. And I think that's the best way for us to look at it.
Mm-hmm.
So, okay, let's see if we find any more questions here. Learning to check your own fecals will be the best decision you make. Lucky for us, Bill has put together an amazing course and platform for us to work together. Yes. And so many people in this chat right here are part of that course. And it's just created such a wonderful community of learning. So we're helping each other learn in a positive way. It's my dream of what I wanted Chameleon Academy to be. Okay. I have now got lost in the chat. I've lost my place. Let's try. Oh, there we go. Question for Tyler. Did you get rid of all your plants or did you clean and repot your plants?
I clean and repot. I did not get rid of them. There were some. The fern I did end up getting rid of, but I kept my plants. I did. If there were fecal matter, I would just cut that part of the plant and just take it out of the enclosure. But I steam cleaned the plants. They all lived. I did the diluted F10, and they aren't showing any signs of wilting or yellowing. So,
okay.
Mm-hmm.
And Tyler, your opinion. Should we allow James Cross to give ficus a good talk about ficus, or should we just say, James, you're crazy? All right.
I both. Yes, we should let him talk ficus.
Yes, I don't like ficus. I know everybody uses it, and it's been a staple. I just don't like it.
So was there a need from outside of the chameleon community, like the reptile community itself, reaching out and saying, "Hey, we would love to hear what we can do for our reptiles"?
No, that was something that. What Tyler is referring to is the video that's going out on Thursday is actually, instead of it's about chameleon parasites, it's reptile parasites. So I'm starting to talk general reptile. And the thing is, this really doesn't exist in a form, and so I think I want to make it available to other people in the reptile community, because the stuff that we're looking at is just applicable across all of the reptiles and amphibians.
Mhm.
And the reason why I initially made it for chameleon parasites and went down into that niche is because there's a whole lot more out there that cause a lot of problems in a lot of reptiles that we chameleon people luckily don't have to we don't have to deal much with cryptosporidium or pentastomes. There's things that, chameleons can get that stuff, but we rarely see it. So I am building out the course to start including those as well. But I wanted to get it out when it was applicable to the chameleon community, and then work into the reptile community. But I'm starting that.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah, and of course, who most of us have other kind of reptiles.
Of course. The reason I ask is because we just went to Repticon this weekend, a student ambassador and myself, and we picked up fecal samples from vendors there.
Oh yeah, tell us about that.
So this is really cool. We begin our biology unit with a unit on microscopy to start to venture into the cellular world. And so taking the parasite course, bringing in some of my passions, the students' passions, we emailed Repticon this year and said, hey, we would love to come as Park School and pick up fecal samples from your vendors. The samples will let you know what the outcome is. The students are going to be assessing if there were parasites or not. And so vendors were able to get those micrographs back if they wanted. They were going to remain completely anonymous. And so this was a pilot year. I will say it was great to see some of the feedback. We had 6 vendors that did get back to us. Fortunately for those vendors, we found no parasites. And it was wonderful to see the amount of people that were interested and willing to participate. And so I'm hoping that next year at Repticon, we actually get a booth as a school. And so students will be sitting there with their microscopes, and vendors will be able to come drop off those samples. Students will be able to assess. They'll get a greater understanding of the cellular world, husbandry that is needed in the reptile world. And so we're just passing on education.
Oh yes, I can make up a little sign for people with a QR code. If you want to join and figure it out yourself, we would love to have you.
Yep.
Liv says, who your favorite student? Did you know this person?
All of my students are favorite Liv. I told you. That's definitely one of my students. Be good in the chat, kids. Be good in the
Be good in the chat.
I'll see you tomorrow.
Yeah, I want to hear how you going through all of this. How did you bring this into your classroom?
So it just comes from teaching this unit and seeing the students go into the microscopic world. It's like the metaverse, but in real life. It's like this alternate universe that actually exists. And so when students are able to find this and understand that there's this whole world we do not know about, most often than not, they want to discover. They're curious just from like a genuine standpoint. So it was just reptiles are kind of my thing, and I'd like to bring it in. So
definitely get some poop and put it in the potted plant, and then bring that in. I tell you, first time I saw when I saw my first paramecium, it was like, it was just, oh my goodness, this is so cool.
Well, the rotifer's got the class going right now from the
man.
So,
I want to find a tardigrade. I so want to find a tardigrade.
That's always the one that the kids want to find each year. Tardigrade.
Have you ever found one?
Last year, one of my students did. But he works for he volunteers for the state to do firefly research. So he knows how to use a microscope, and he was privy to the microscopic world, so he knew where to look.
Okay. Boy, when I find one, you guys are going to see it all the time. It's going to be on my title. Why don't you like ficus? Why don't I like ficus? I don't like ficus because for for it to be a useful perching surface, it has to be thick enough. And when it's thick enough, it's like too dense with branches for it to really be good for chameleons. And then it wants to break out of the cage. And there's no good reason why I don't like ficus. It's just, I just don't. So it's just my thing.
Actually, speaking of plants, Bill, do the oocysts, if you were to have like a bromeliad in the enclosure, would that increase the amount of, I guess it wouldn't increase the amount of oocysts, but would it be a problem if you were to have a bromeliad with sitting water in that enclosure?
The thing is, okay, so chameleons have this annoying habit of pooping into their food dishes and anything that collects water. Don't know what it is. So if they pooped inside the bromeliad, then that bromeliad would forever have, I don't know, there's any way you could get all the oocysts out of that. But once again, okay, so you have that bromeliad full of oocysts, doesn't do anything unless it goes into your chameleon's mouth.
Yeah,
So,
I think that was part of my issue. I think in the beginning, I did have two, or actually one bigger bromeliad plant that had a bunch of shoots, and then the one big, kind of like catch-all. So I think that was a big problem.
yeah, the thing with the oocysts, everybody, so an oocyst is the reproductive form of coccidia, and it's highly environmentally resistant. And so it's this little egg-like thing. We'll call it an egg. It's not an egg, it's a cyst, but let's call it does the same function as an egg. And it has this thick shell that makes it incredibly environmentally resistant. We can't kill it. I mean, all of our detergents and such, they laugh it off. So they are in the environment. Whenever a poop hits the floor, we don't see it, but things splash off. And so they're going to be all over. One of the things we realize is even if the entire floor of our chameleon cage is filled with oocysts, infectious oocysts, that means nothing if they don't get into the mouth of your chameleon, which is why our 3 points of attack. We give medicine and good husbandry to kill the adults that are reproducing adults inside of the chameleon. We clean and disinfect anything that poop has touched on the way down, and then we control what goes into the chameleon's mouth. We cannot be 100% successful in each of those 3 stages, but if we're mostly successful on 3 stages, well, then we've got a pretty good management. So, you know, this is the game. These are the cards we're given, and so we just got to play them right. Let's see. Evergreen frogs. Is there a virus similar to the chytrid virus that affects chameleons? Luckily not. The worst thing that we could get is cryptosporidium, but there are I can find cases of where a chameleon had cryptosporidium. There are cases written up, but it's just not common. I've never seen cryptosporidium, and so we're lucky in that way. We don't have anything that is comparable to that. The poor frogs. Let's see. Alan Rojas is asking, in terms of environmental stressors, how do factors like suboptimal hydration, temperature, and UVB exposure in captive settings exacerbate isospora outbreaks in chameleons? And what preventive measures can be implemented in husbandry to mitigate these risks? Okay. And hi, Mr. France.
Hi.
Alan, the factors like suboptimal hydration, anything that is suboptimal has a massive effect on the ability for the body to contain isospora, because we're talking about the immune system, and it's very easy to understand because it's exactly like us. When we don't take care of our body, we eat junk food, we don't exercise, we don't sleep well, we end up getting sick because our body is not healthy and our immune system is not healthy. We sit at work and we have the air conditioning vent, and the breeze keeps hitting our head and it drives us crazy. Okay, so our immune system starts taking hits. Every little thing that's not right, our immune system takes a hit. And then stressors. When we're stressed because there's too much work, we're afraid that we're going to get fired, that takes a toll on our immune system as well. Our emotional state can make us physically sick. And it's the same with chameleons. You have a chameleon that is cohabitating. Okay, it survives for 6 months and then it gets a respiratory infection. Yeah, well, it's not the bacteria that caused that respiratory infection. I mean, it is, but what really caused the respiratory infection was the constant degrading of the immune system over those 6 months, to the point where it couldn't fight off the bacteria. So everything that you listed, all of those husbandry, yes, they are instrumental in whether the chameleon is going to be able to fight off the S. hospira or not. And like I said, especially, you talk about the nematodes, they're evading the immune system. They're just sitting there in their corner producing a bunch of eggs. Coccidia is not that. Coccidia is doing all of this, this asexual reproduction, this cloning of hundreds to thousands to tens of thousands inside the chameleon. And if the chameleon does not, and each one of those forms is going to destroy an epithelial cell. That's the cells in the intestines that absorb nutrients. And so each one of those asexual forms is going to destroy an epithelial cell in order to create hundreds more of itself who are going to destroy epithelial cells. And so by reducing the effectiveness of the immune system, you're just, I mean, these coccidia cells are just laying waste to the intestinal lining. So, and that weakens the chameleon even further. So the answer to what preventative measures can be implemented in husbandry to mitigate these risks: give them ideal husbandry, especially in chameleons. Give them a spacious cage, give them lots of microclimates, microenvironments, security, and healthy, lots of good hydration. Make sure they're hydrated, healthy food, and no stress. And that is your best defense. I mentioned cryptosporidium, even though that's something that we really don't deal with in the chameleon world. There's other worlds where it just devastates, like leopard geckos. I mean, it's devastating. And there's no medication that works on cryptosporidium. It's very much like coccidia in how it works, except it auto-infects. Coccidia doesn't auto-infect. So cryptosporidium will actually produce oocysts that don't go outside of the body, and they just hatch inside the gecko. In that case, the immune system is the only thing that we have to fight against cryptosporidium. So husbandry, I did that next episode and focused on husbandry because that is the one. I don't think people realize how important that is to fighting parasites that they don't even know exist yet. So let's see if anybody else. Gosh, I just love an excuse to talk about parasites.
Right?
All right, I'm checking the chats here. And by the way, Tyler, if you see anything in the chat that's good to answer, you just let me know and I'll find it.
I didn't even know I could look at that chat.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Nick wants a small batch breed tree monitors. Nick, that is a very good idea. What kind do you want to work with? All right, gargoyle geckos are so cool.
Eliza's asking when I'm gonna breed the boy. Eliza, I have been trying. This past weekend, he was head nodding and got to where he was about to grab her back and then ran away. So we're gonna try again this week.
Marshan, I won't say they can't, but I've not had any of my chameleons poop in their feet or run. Yeah. Well, okay. There's a reason for that. Give me a second here. All right, something to keep in mind. This is, well, actually, we can take this down. So if you do a cheap little feeder run cup like this, they will literally crawl up on top and they will poop inside because they're brats. I don't know why they do it, but I have, I always suspected that they were doing this, but it wasn't until I actually got a picture of one that just crammed itself above the feeder run cup. I mean, in the most uncomfortable position so they could poop in it. There was no accident there. So when you get a feeder run cup like this, that's got a top, it at least decreases the ability. Now, I'm sure a chameleon could just stick himself in there to get it.
Is that a Neymar?
I haven't seen it yet.
Is that a Neymar feeder run?
Yeah, that's the Neymar.
Yeah,
those are Neymar feeder run cups.
Yeah, I just got mine, the blueberry. It's great.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, by the way, everybody, this is relevant to the parasite discussion because you ask, why would a chameleon do that kind of behavior? And that's what a number of us are asking. It is possible that the parasites are affecting the behavior of the chameleon. And this is not uncommon because the parasite has to figure out, there's a big world out there, and somehow the parasite has to figure out how to get into its next host. And a number of parasites have taken to playing with the hormones in their host's body to control them and make them go and do things that increase the chances that the parasite can get to their next host. So affecting the chameleon in a way to make it poop where it gets its insects may be a way. It may be showing that the parasite is affecting the chameleon's behavior. So don't know for sure, but these are the things we got to keep looking out for. And by the way, if anybody has never heard of this and is saying, "Oh, Bill, that sounds far out," then you don't want to hear about Toxoplasma gondii because it works with humans too. If you've never heard about how parasites can modify behavior, there is a nightmare of study that is opening up to you now because it's pretty horrendous. Parasites can literally make their intermediate hosts commit suicide to get into their next host. So just so you know what kind of world is out there when you come here to the Chameleon Academy.
And terrifying.
Oh my goodness. Biology is just I mean, the thing is, it's all real.
It is. Yeah. Troy is asking, Bill, can two different chameleons, both panthers, also have different stress triggers? I don't know if you got that one.
Oh, there it is. There it is. Thank you very much.
You're
yes. Oh, living on. I don't know what that. Yeah, that's perfect. I love those references. Okay. Yes, that's absolutely because every chameleon is an individual, and because the emotional state of a chameleon affects its physical health, just like us. This is absolutely correct. Some panthers, when you put your hand in their cage, they walk on your hand. It's not a stress point. Some panthers, you walk into the room and they hiss and they fall to the floor. This is an example of a different stress. Now, this is a stress spike, and we have to know that, okay, stress spikes are different than long-term stress. They have no problem with stress spike. That's not what we're talking about. So, but long-term stress, yes, the different panthers will see the color yellow differently, and it means different things to them. So this is something for all of us chameleon people and reptile people. This goes for all reptiles. Each one is an individual. Each one has its own mind and its own personality and its own way of looking at the world and interpreting the world. I think it's pretty exciting that we're getting into the stage of our herpetoculture where we're realizing how individual and complex they are emotionally. All right, Dylan's late. But you know what? He showed up. So we're good with you, Dylan. Good to have you here. Oh, yeah. I mean, James was saying, where's Dylan? Gosh, we have to talk about ficus trees without Dylan. Oh, okay. You just answered that, didn't you? Oh, this is so sad. Oh, my wife says 21 reptiles is enough for me. Eric, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. That's oh. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
you know what I did is I got my wife interested in reptiles, and now she has more than me.
Yeah. I said, I'll just turn it into a business.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. And you said that's okay. I'm just going to get 4, and I'm going to stop at 4. But
Yeah.
you didn't say that those are 2 pairs
Mhm.
because babies don't count, right?
No. Of course not.
Nick says green and blue monitors would be my preference. Excellent choice. Oh, those are beautiful. Tyler, do you think you'll be giving your students an assignment on chameleon parasites?
To start off our microscopy unit, I actually used one of Bill's isospora pictures.
Oh, hey.
I did. And one of our like essential overarching questions is like, how do you prove an idea? And so I just said, is this living or not? And prove it. And so it was kind of like the start of our microscopy unit. And some of them are pretty fun, are pretty smart and witty. And so what they did was Google reverse image search the picture. And so then they found Bill and the Chameleon Academy. And I was like, oh yeah, okay. But
oh, here's interesting. Marcianne, my bearded dragon pooped in her bowl until I treated her for coccidia.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Ozzy only pooped in his feeder run cup once, and that was before I treated. That was it. Only one time. So I can't say it was for sure the coccidia, but
yeah, the thing is, this is the way it works. We make observations, we start connecting the dots, adding all of this data, and sooner or later somebody is going to, we'll get Dr. Michael Nash will say, all right, enough of this, I'm going to do a study and we're going to find out. And that's the way it works. It's very cool. So all right, I'm going to rush through the chat here. I'm sorry if I miss a comment. But let's see. Well, with a bioactive cause a chameleon to get sick more often? No, bioactive in itself is not going to cause a chameleon to get sick more often. A chameleon will get sick if the conditions are not correct for it. So, bioactive is just, it's not a positive, it's negative. It's just one part of the picture. It's funny how we anthropomorphize them in ways, and turns out some of it is actually true, to the level that they're individuals and experience their own views of the world, life, and flesh-covered lores. Yeah, Troy, the reason why we have such a bad a stigma against anthropomorphizing is that we generally do that when we want something from the chameleon that it isn't giving us. Like, I want love from my chameleon. I want my chameleon to like me more than usually it's, I want my chameleon to love me. And it's, I want to be seen as the person who can communicate with my chameleon. And it wants to come with me to the grocery store and all that kind of stuff. So that is the reason why it's got such a stigma. But the fact is, we're all made from the same stuff, and we all have, I'm probably going out on a biological limb here, but as far as I can tell, we all have the same emotions, just different complexities of these emotions. I mean, you put a baby chameleons together and they start competing with each other. They do. You put 2 chameleons together and they want to compete for the territory. Well, the one that's dominant will literally eat the food that the submissive one was trying to eat. Not because it doesn't have any food. There's food all over the place. No, it wants the one that the submissive one is trying to eat. So they're little brats as well. I mean, you see that in human beings. We do that. So yeah, there's we're all so very, very close in some ways. So all right. I am working on, I am so far behind apparently. Liv is back.
Livy, she has some phenomenal micrographs. Her cell research project looks phenomenal.
Oh, excellent.
Shout out,
Excellent.
Liv. You're doing great.
So, all right. Yeah. And for everybody here, now you're exotic vet. You know, we're talking, we're kind of the parasite nerds. We've gone through the course and we got our microscopes and we're having a grand old time. But if you don't have all of that, just take a poop to your vet once a year. Yeah, twice a year, maybe. If you here the reason, I would say once a year, but you are at a more of a risk if you have other reptiles in the house. You go to pet stores for your food, or you go to pet expos and just hang out. And like I said, it doesn't matter if you hold animals or not. If you go to the bathroom and you're touching the same door as the people who are holding the animals, you know, you're at risk. And don't be, you don't have to be paranoid about it. Just understand the situation, understand the parasites, know that it's something that we all are going to deal with. And the people who are not dealing with it, who think that they got captive hatched animals who are not, don't have parasites, aren't looking for them. So, all right. So everybody, let's go ahead and I'll put any of the last comments down there. Thank you very much, Tyler, for coming on and sharing all of this.
Thank you, guys. It's love both ways.
So, what the heck? Two Turtle Tom. Hey, I'm late, but I received another very mysterious package once again today from the Illuminati. You never know that I have no idea what I don't know anything about this. Oh. Let's see. Okay, Rick, I'm just checking to make sure. Rarest captivity chameleon in captivity, Namaqua ground chameleon. Actually, Namaqua ground chameleon. There's a number of them over in the UK, so I wouldn't say that they are the rarest. Yeah, possibly first for Baltiatus, maybe. All right. Hey, Bill, has Reef Bright got a hold of you for a test goodie? I recommended you to the Reef Bright. I have not heard from Reef Bright. So, okay, phone's got to die. Good night, Nick. And we may as well say goodbye, everybody. Real quick. Bill, have you ever had Jackson's chameleon with a very big personality? Yes, I have, especially the females. And oh, yes, everybody, remember, DIY guys tomorrow morning, if you are a hardcore chameleon person, 5 a.m. Pacific on YouTube. We have a DIY chameleon, guys, and it's all about air conditioning. Hey, that's the kind of thing we care about. So,
yeah, Bill, would I be able to this is my first live. Would I be able to just say a couple shout outs?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted to shout out you, the Chameleon Academy, Eliza, Marsha, Mikey, Nate, Fogfather. All you guys are phenomenal. So thank you for the help. Obviously my students are on here, so love to you guys, but my family, mom and dad, thanks for watching. Leah Talon, so love you. And Royal Kaleidoscope Chameleons too. Jen, thank you for helping as well.
Oh, well, we'll do one more question.
Yep.
By Rex Darius. What does anthropomorphize? I assume anthropomorphize is when we look at an animal and we project human emotions and desires onto that animal. And that is it's relevant in the chameleon world because we humans are pack animals. We like family groups. We feel secure in family groups, just like dogs, some cats, dolphins, fish, deer, rabbits. We all have reasons for doing family groups, but there's other animals that don't, that are solitary animals like chameleons or anything else that lives life alone. And so anthropomorphizing would be us looking at our chameleon saying, okay, you want to be part of our family. You want to come out and be touched, because we human beings love touch. We touch what we love. We cuddle. And a dog knows what that means. And a dog wants to cuddle because it knows love. But chameleons don't even have the part of the brain that love is, because they're solitary. They don't know who their family is. They don't know who their mother and father is. They don't group together for a benefit. So anthropomorphizing is when we project what human beings are onto another life form that is not a human being. So, okay. Yeah, I can never stop when there's a good question out there. So, all right then, everybody, thank you very much. I'll see all of you diehards tomorrow morning, and on Thursday, once again at 5 a.m., we are having that episode on fighting reptile parasites using husbandry. We're not going to be talking about oocysts and sporulation and stuff. I do talk about oocysts. We aren't talking about sporulation or any parasite nerd stuff. It's going to be high level for people who have no experience. And so that's Thursday morning at 5 a.m. We have a chat because of the premiere, but of course you can watch it anytime after that. So everybody, thank you for joining us. Thank you, Tyler.
Yes,
and we'll see you later.
Bye.